Samuel, hold on a second.
All right, way better now. Again, so my name is Sam. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ChrysaLabs. So we have designed a real-time soil sensing technology. So the company is based in Montreal, Quebec. We have a team of around 40 people now. So the main mission for us building the company was to deliver more information from the soil for agronomists to have more information to take their decisions. So we think about decisions that are more profitable. So think about improving bottom lines, better managing your inputs, but also how can we support agronomists in making decisions that are more sustainable? So perhaps improving soil health, adding more carbon in your soil. So how basically agronomists can have more information to do their job. And as you can see, I'm always wearing a vest. That's kind of what we can tell by this photo. So I think we can all acknowledge that soil is the backbone of agriculture, right? It's by far the biggest assets that growers have and need to maintain. At the same time, the biggest question is why are we treating soil so poorly, right? There's 30% of soil that is arid or semi-arid in the US, and about 40% of soil that is at risk of desertification all across the country. So the underlying question of that is we need to do way better in terms of how we manage soil health in general and how we're managing inputs. And the thing is we need way more information to do it. So at the same time, soil is a very complex ecosystem, right? So I'm always amazed by the fact that we're sending people over the moon, paying billions to look at new planets and so on, but at the same time, we don't have a lot of knowledge of the soil that is underneath their own feet, right? There's still a lot of things that we need to understand, and we need to invest way more money in that. So in 1 teaspoon of soil, there's more living organism than people living on this specific planet. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to understand. And here what we're seeing is a kind of what we call the soil health dilemma, right? So there's a lot of different kind of process that intersect somewhere where we believe it's the long-term valuable asset. So how can we maintain the value of soil going over time? So it's a mix between practices. So there's a lot of trends right now in discussion about regen practices, so going no-till, crop rotation, and cover cropping, for example. There's also what's the vision of the specific people operating the land. So are you owner, are you lender of this land? This will certainly change your practices. Do you have people coming over to take farm as a next generation? So how basically you'll invest in your land is part of the vision. And there's profitability, right? We're all growers are there ultimately to make some money. You only have 40 shots on goal, so you need to make things happen. So you need to balance profitability. So at the intersect of everything, this is where you create kind of long-term asset value. The thing is, agriculture is not a cheap business, right? So with the current kind of prices that we're seeing, the rising prices that we're seeing, the war in Ukraine, plus COVID, plus everything, there's a lot of changes that are going from the macro perspective. That was a McKinsey report that was released earlier this season, and 75% of growers expect their price to go up. And you see here the price of commodities has been kind of pretty high in the last few months. So fertilizer have ramped up 71%, the cost of crop production as well, and labor. So basically, it is a business that can get pretty tight when you're looking to improve your margin time over time. It's around $200 billion that is spent on fertilizer for growers. Nowadays, with the current prices that we're seeing, it's probably closer to $300 billion. So there's a lot of money involved for sure. And depending on what you're growing, it can go all the way to 20% of your farm overhead that are linked with fertilizer. So it's about time we start asking questions about what's the marginal value of the next pound of nitrogen you're using? Why are you applying that much fertilizer in this specific section of the field? What's the long-term impact of chemical and soil health? So all these questions rely on the fact that we need more information from the soil. It goes without saying that there's we need to produce more. There's a rising population. Also in developing countries, people are starting eating more. So we need to produce 70% more resources that we currently have to achieve this kind of big challenge that we have, and we only have 30 years to do so. And we don't have more land that we have, right? So we need to be more efficient in every single acres that we grow. And the last thing is, there's regulation also kicking in, right? So if that was not enough, all the kind of macroeconomics that we've just discussed, there's also a lot of pressure that are coming in from different regulations. So You're probably aware of the nitrogen regulation in California. So their aim is to reduce all the way to 50% the application of nitrogen in their field. And this is by 2031. So they have around 10 years to reduce by 50% the amount of nitrogen they can put. So this will kind of put a lot of pressure on how they're dealing with information from the soil. There's also, oh wow, this is a bit messy, but I promise on my side it was better. Anyway, the CPGs is what we call a customer packaged goods. So you can think about food companies. They put a lot of pressure downstream for their growers to perform better in terms of soil health, in terms of carbon. They want to be able to prove that they sustainably source their crops. They want to kind of impact what we call climate smart commodities. So there's a lot of pressure kicking in from these guys. And we have around the same regulation in Canada. They want to reduce by 30% the emissions that were linked with nitrogen fertilizer. So if you just basically ask everyone to cut by 30% the nitrogen, what you'll see is huge yield loss for everyone, right? So that's not the way to do it. The only way you can think about going that direction is if you have more information and therefore you apply only the needed fertilizer where you need to go. So what is the problem right now? So I guess we've all acknowledged that we need more information from the soil. This is how we'll drive better, actionable insights from different agronomists and growers. But the problem is, the only way right now to have information from your soil is to work with wetchem labs. And those wetchem labs, they're not able to stand the heat of the growing demand of soil analysis. So depending on where you are in the country, the kind of relationship you have and different parameters, you can wait days to weeks before you get your results. And lab can only scale with CapEx, right? And there's only so many labs you can build in a week, right? So there's a rising demand with what we're seeing with carbon markets, with soil health, with precision sampling as well. So there's more and more kind of analysis that are demand from the clients, but there's not much way to look at information. So, there's nowadays plenty of different technologies that operate in this space. And the question for ChrysaLabs was, what is the baseline of accuracy that new players need to meet if they want to play in the same industry, right? So if we want to be able to support agronomists with information for them to make decisions, what is the bare minimum kind of level of information we should provide for them to use that? So what we've done, and we define accuracy as the result that the industry is normally accepting, right? So it's not about the percentage of error people want to talk about. It's people have been working with lab for more than 50 years, and they accept these results and they work with these results. So therefore, this is what the industry defines as accuracy, because they're willing to work with that. So what we've done was basically sending a bunch of samples to either the exact same lab or multiple labs and look at the results to compare exactly how they were performing. So the first one up there the first one here is what we call inter-lab variability, meaning we've collected multiple samples, make this in a bucket, and we've done 4 different bags and send the information to 4 different labs in the US. So the idea there was if you send the exact same piece of soil to multiple labs, what kind of result you can expect from that. So on average, the swing between results, meaning like the minimal point and the maximum point for the exact same sample, on average for all the nutrients that we've asked for, around 50 nutrients, the average swing was 48%. So this means, if you have someone saying for phosphorus like 50, you would be like all the way from 25 ppm to 75 ppm, right? So there's a lot of error between exactly what you can expect. We've done the exact same thing for intra-lab variations. So let's say, it's not the same thing because it's multiple lab, different standard, and so on. We've done the exact same thing at the exact same lab. So we've collected multiple cores, mixed this in a bucket very homogeneously, split this in 4 different bags, and send the exact same soil to the exact same lab at the exact same time. And we've asked for results. So if you exclude pH, which is normally a very accurate reading because it's kind of more direct, the average swing was 30%, meaning the swing that they get depending on how they're using and looking at the information they have, it's pretty high, right? So, I guess one of the good examples is nitrogen, right? I guess we can all agree here that nitrogen is the most important fertilizer, it's the most expensive one, it's the most needed for plants, it's the most dangerous for the environment. So it makes a lot of different parameters why we would want to look closer at nitrogen. So when we've looked at the information on intra-lab variability here, the average swing on result was 91%. It's almost 100%, right? So it's simple to double on results, and this is for multiple labs. And when we've looked at the information at the exact same lab at the exact same time for nitrogen, the error was 40%. The problem is, when people are thinking about introducing a new technology in their market, they normally ask us to be 5% or 10% off of lab results. So why would someone, a growers and agronomists, ask ChrysaLabs to be 5 or 10% off a specific results when labs are constantly giving information that are 40% off, right? So the baseline, the accuracy that was accepted in the industry is somehow that result can be off 40%, but if you're a new player, you want to enter that space, then it should be 5%, right? So it just makes no sense. So we need to acknowledge that basically lab are giving some accurate results, but the spread of accuracy needs to be defined, and this should be for nitrogen 40%. And this is the bare minimum every technology should achieve to participate in this new industry. So there's multiple reasons why the result would be different. So first is local context. So there's more moisture, temperature, the weather could impact also kind of the information that are collected. There's also lab techniques. So if you go, for example, in a lab in Indiana and a lab in California, they're not using exactly the same equipment. They're not exactly using the same standard as well. There's Brea-Olsen, ammonium acetate, DTPA, Milig 3, Milig 2. So there's a lot of different standards out there that basically adds up for a lot of variability we're seeing. And there's also the handling process, right? So, where was your analysis shipped the same day? Was it shipped at the end of the week? Or was it on the shelf for a day? Was it there for a week? Was it quarantined, for example? We discussed that a little bit earlier. So there's a lot of different reasons. How exactly was it dry? How exactly was it powdered down to a kind of a small fragment? So there's a lot of different reasons why those output would be very different, even if you have at the end of the day the exact same input. So the real question is, are we screwed, right? Is that the end? Is that like the only way for us to get information is to kind of work with perhaps deficient information that we receive from labs? I'd like to say that the answer is no, right? So there's more now in the industry that give access, that growers and agronomists can have access to more information. And more information, even if you still have some error in every single point that you have, if you have more information, at the end of the day, you're able to balance the act and have more information to take your decision, so you're flattening the line of the error that you're collecting. So what we'll discuss today is, we strongly believe that there's a coexistence that needs to exist in the industry right now, where labs are giving some readings. There's also new technology participating in that space that will also provide information for agronomists to do their job. And the idea was to kind of establish what they should reach at least to get in the market, and now we'll discuss a little bit what these technologies are bringing to the table. So the first one has been around for some time now, remote sensing. So you can think about satellite data, plane with some cameras on, or even drone. Basically, they're pretty good to do some what we call scouting. So as opposed to walking all across your field, you're able to use satellite data, and therefore you know only the regions where you should be focusing on. So you think about stress, pest, and NDVI index. Those have been around for some time. So it's very good, as mentioned, to scout field, and it's very good also to stratify different zones, right? So if you want to specifically focus on some zone, they would be very good to say, hey, you should probably focus on this specific, those 10 acres, because it seems like there's a bigger problem there. The problem is, they lack resolution, so at some point there's only so much things you can see from the air, so you need to get a little bit down the weeds if you want to have more information. It needs to be calibrated for crops. So let's say you're working with soybean and corn, that won't correlate with lettuce, so you will need to do another set of calibration. Then if you're looking in canola, it needs to be different as well. So there's a lot of money to be involved there. And what's the main concern of today's speech is soil information. And of course, from the air, there's nothing to be seen from the soil, right? Normally people would look at 6 inches information, 12 inches information, all the way to 24 inches. This is not possible for you to see from a satellite imagery perspective. Then there's what we call proximal sensing. So the definition that we have for this one is, think about an ATV that goes with a kind of some sort of a camera embedded in these ATV, and they just kind of run very fast in field. So they're able to collect a lot of information. So they give you basically a real nice map of information, but they need to ground shoot some points across the field to know exactly what this variability is caused by. So it's very accurate interpolation. So you have a lot of information from all across your field, and it's very close on the surface, right? So the information you're collecting are kind of way more accurate than what you would normally see from a satellite perspective. it's time effective because you can drive like 30 miles an hour, like speeding crazy fast in your ADV. So it's a good way for you to go like across every places. And it reduces the needs for ground truth, right? So as opposed as doing some grid sample, for example, every 2.5 acres, you would use this first system, and then you would reduce the amount of samples you need by 70%, for example. So you need to do less core in the soil, and you can get more resolution. The problem is, you normally have a post-sampling process. So because they would basically apply a specific AI model on the data collected. So if you need to work the wait for the lab, this could go up to 2 weeks, 3 weeks before you can deliver value to your clients. No, of course, for very obvious reason, you can do in-season sampling. So I'm not aware of any growers that would let an ATV run in their cornfield. And they rely heavily on ground truth as well, right? And as we've mentioned, there's a lot of swing. Normally these companies would be using different labs, so they would be using, depending on the place where they work, they would be using 5, 7, 8 different labs. And as we've seen earlier, there's a lot of swing between results. So this, there's some variability that are basically embedded in the result they're showing just because there's a lot of variability in labs. So the third one here is what we call lab in a box, lab on a chip. So it's not a very popular concept, but I wanted to talk about it because it exists. I guess the idea behind that is imagine something that you would have perhaps at your office or perhaps behind your pickup truck, and you would be able to play the chemist at the end of your day and try to make some small analysis on a lab that is portable kind of thing. So I guess the objective of that is you're able to reduce the amount of information you ship to labs, so you're able to kind of save on your FedEx or UPS cost. And it's normally less expensive than a lab on a per analysis price, right? The problem with that is there's multiple manipulation needed, right? So you need to kind of, at the end of your day of work, you would need to kind of work with syringe and product and like put this in a small bag, put this in a chip. It's not something very common. Like, agronomists don't have that much time, like in the season, to play the chemist at night. It's lacking a little bit of go-to-market. So who's supposed to use this? Like, is it agronomists? Are we hiring specifically someone to do so? And the price to accuracy ratio right now is not very appealing because they haven't been able to demonstrate a high accuracy, but the price is still not very appealing for depending on the labs you work with right now in the US. So the last technology that I want to talk about, and this is what ChrysaLabs is specifically working on, is in-field sensing. So basically, this gives you, you can imagine a probe that you just bring with you and plunge directly in the soil, and within seconds you get access to a complete soil profile. So we're talking about nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and so on. So it's very interesting to have year-round analysis. So you can go like spring sampling if you want, you can go in-season sampling, you can go fall sampling. So you can always collect information. You get information real-time in the field, so you don't need to wait for post-processing, delay, or so on. You have everything you need right there in the field. And it's a complete analysis at a very low price. So it's normally unlimited amount of samples. So the marginal value of the next sample you're collecting is very, very low. There's the fact that there's calibration that is needed depending on soil texture that you're covering, perhaps different region, different range of nutrients. There's calibration that could be needed there. And at the end of the day, you still need to send someone in the field, right? So it can be a labor-intensive process. So as mentioned, this is what ChrysaLabs has been working on. We have developed this product. We have a booth and in the Innovation Hub. If you want to have more detail, we have a few probes with us that we would be able to show you. We've been working on the two challenges addressed there, calibration and labor, on different perspectives. So the first one on calibration, we've designed some algorithms that are able to reduce as maximum as possible the amount of new information we need to do calibration to open new markets. And we also have some auto-calibration processes directly embedded in our system so that we are able to remove bias such as moisture, temperature out there, texture of the soil, scratch on the window. So we're able to remove most of the bias by some, I'd say, AI models, but also some hardware components. In terms of labor-intensive process, we are currently undergoing a lot of different discussions with large robot company, large OEM companies to try to embed our system directly as part of their way of collecting information. So this reduces the basically price of collecting every single information. So, what I'm trying to, if there's one thing that I'd like to kind of get here is, there is a huge need in the market right now to have more information because that's basically the only way agronomists and growers will be able to take better decisions in the field that are either sustainable or profitable. And there's only so much information the lab will be able to provide, right? Because they can only scan with CapEx. So there's a huge need for other technologies to be basically applicate in this new industry. But we need to acknowledge that the bare minimum for these technology to play is not what the market is really thinking about. So there's coexistation of these technology needs to be there, and everybody have the right to play if they're able at least to perform at the level labs are able to perform. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Chelsea Brandt from Acre Analytics. So Chelsea, if you want to come. So Chelsea is one of our partners using the device here in the Midwest, and she's going to discuss with you a little bit more about using the device.
Cool. Thank you, Sam. Well, like he mentioned, my role in this discussion is simply to prove to you all that Sam's got some probes out there. So my husband and I, in 2017, he's sitting in the back there, we started this business called Acre Analytics. And we did it with the need to soil sample our own farm. And it's amazing what it's really developed into 5 years later. So in 2017, we were trying to think of ways to make a little bit more money, as well as reduce the cost of soil sampling on our own ground. And we were doing this the hard way. And I think we truly underestimated the amount of time it was going to take to geo-reference our fields and set sample points, and then go collect that soil, haul it back to our place, and then organize it in a way that we knew could get to the lab and accurately get documented. We have a lot of reasons why we realized down the road how difficult that could be. And here we are 4 years later. We have a good relationship with a company called Boa Safra. If you haven't heard of them, they're one to look up if you are in the acquisition of land position on your farm. They're a business that we've got good relationships with, and one of their founders actually approached Nate and I and said, we've heard of this new probe. It's called the ChrysaLabs probe. And it is an automated sensing tool that allows you to go out to the field, use those preset sample points, collect the data, and currently we're collecting nitrogen, we're collecting bulk density, carbon readings, as well as all of the same readings you would get from a Mehlich test at the conventional brick and mortar lab. All of those nutrients are actually all what we were looking for and more. And you can do it without lugging soil to the lab, and that was a big thing for us. We're a small family business, and we were looking for ways to maximize our efficiency. And currently, we're running 2 of these probes. We're all the way from Oregon to Chicago, from Minnesota to Texas, and we have had incredible luck with them. And I think the one thing that Sam pointed on that I appreciate the most, and we've learned through our own research, is the variability in a lab itself. So as farmers ourselves, I think the one thing that we can take away from our experience as soil samplers, farmers, business folks, is set yourself a baseline and get started somewhere. Measure the nutrient value in your soil, and then utilize a tool like the ChrysaLabs probe to do it annually. You'll be able to reduce your fertilizer input costs, manage your soil in a better way, and then also, if you're in that retail business, reduce that turnaround time. I actually brought my cell phone up here because we have a family member currently soil sampling in the Kansas region, and I am getting real-time data on all of the probes that he's taking in the field right now. So I click on the sample, I can pull up the tag identification, and the thing, I guess from my perspective, I'm more of the data analysis of our business, is I can export this. It has latitude and longitude associated with it, and then I can import it into the tools that I'm using and get application usability there. So we're always going to be able to point source where that data came from and apply fertilizer respectively to that. But like I mentioned, we're getting all of what I could get at a lab and more. And I guess I just got to put a plug in for you guys. You've done an incredible job. So I think Sam and I talked earlier, and this is a new thing. There's not a lot of probes out on the market like this that we can come into contact with. And I think we'd like to open it up to questions for you guys, whether it be for Sam on his side of research and development, or ask me any questions you may have about the actual usability of this tool, and we'd be happy to answer.
You said you had a sample of what they look like. You said you brought some with you to show what they
Yeah,
look
there's
like.
a probe. I forgot to bring the probe. Is that we have a booth in the Innovation Hub. We have two probes there, one in the probe. Yeah, I
so you
forgot
have
to bring
some in
one.
the building.
Yeah.
Not here.
So we have like all the way down this hall. There's the Innovation Hub, and we have like 2 probes right there that we can showcase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Chelsea.